right, I'd like to call to order the Fall River Redevelopment Authority meeting Tuesday, September 27th, 2022. Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recording or transmission are being made, whether perceived or unperceived, by those present and are deemed acknowledged and permissible. I'd like to start with attendance. Roll call, please.
Johnny Erickson, present.
Joan Medeiros here.
Joe Marshall here.
Ann Keene here.
And note that Luis is not in attendance. Also participating are Sarah Page, Executive Director, John Coughlin, our Counsel, Ken Fiola, Administrative Consultant, and Rochelle, our Executive Assistant. Starting with the first item, approval of open session minutes from August 24th and September 19th. We all received a copy. I read mine. It seems okay. Is there a motion to accept?
I move we accept, was it September 19th?
Oh, August 24th and the 19th.
Oh, the old one.
We
Okay.
received both.
I move we approve August 19 and, wait a minute, August 24 and September 19?
Yes.
Is that what it was?
Yes. Okay, is there a second to that?
Second.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So moved. We also received a copy of the warrants, and we've gone through them, or I've gone through mine. Is there any discussion on the warrant, or is there a motion to approve the warrant?
A motion to approve the warrant as presented.
As presented. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Second by Johnny. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
So moved. We're going to take things a little out of order because we have a guest, Attorney Peter Salino. So the item number 7 on your agenda, we're going to plan on dealing with right now. And reading it, discussion and potential vote regarding the amendment to the LDA with LIT Fall River LLC for Innovation Way property. Peter, did you want to say some words, or do you need to say anything? Or?
I was just going to give an overview
Please.
of what we're asking and
Okay.
where we started.
Thank you.
That's okay. So for record-keeping purposes, Peter Salino, 550 Locust Street, Fall River, counsel to LIT Fall River LLC. The subject before you relates to 1180 Innovation Way, more specifically a land disposition agreement that was dated November 20th of 2015. And at that time, the agreement was somewhat conceptual. It was to bring Amazon here to create their fulfillment center. The site plan that's attached to the recorded LDA is vague. It doesn't show parking. It more or less shows a building envelope, and that's it. And so my client had received a request from Amazon to expand, for instance, truck parking, the site, employee parking, and a variety of things, which ultimately necessitates an amendment to the LDA that's on record. Mm-hmm. And so what we're here for tonight is to ask that the updated site plans be adopted as an attachment to an amendment to the LDA depicting the trailer spots to the east. And again, for everybody's benefit, a portion of the site is in Fall River and a portion is in Freetown. So there's 3 things going on. There's a site plan review in Fall River, site plan review in Freetown, and then there's your authority under the LDA. So for the limited purpose of the Redevelopment Authority, we're here to ask that the site plan as presented, the amended site plan, be used and codified into an amendment to the LDA. And the highlights are that we now show 2 spaces per employee. The visitor parking is designated, and in the Fall River side, there are 64 trailer parking spaces on the northeast side of the building facing Innovation Way. So those are the substantive amendments to the plan from the Redevelopment Authority side of things.
Any questions?
Could you say that again? I thought there are two new trailer areas, right?
I think the other, yes, and that is in the Freetown side. So I think the
Just
new,
our side.
the new Fall River trailer parking depicts 64 spaces right here. which would be the northeast side of the building in Fall River.
But given that the LDA covers Freetown and Fall River, we would be concerned about the Freetown part too, as well.
Fair point, you would be. Yep.
And I think the amendment covers everything. So
Yeah.
it's the entire site plan.
Right.
It doesn't matter which side of the line it's on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I submitted the plans with all the sheets. There's conservation sheets and so on, but yes.
Mhm.
So are we your first stop? You haven't gone to site plan yet? Or-
The submission, so the site plans are submitted. And we were, I believe, waiting for comments from the city. I
Okay.
know they were tied up relative to sewer water comments. But as recently as last week, I know Dan Aguirre was working on it.
Okay.
So it's sort of a, I guess, a parallel path kind of project.
Okay.
Because you have the Freetown side, the Fall River side,
Yeah.
and then this board's authority
Right.
too.
So I had a chance to talk with Dan,
Mm-hmm.
and he said that he was really wanting to hear our opinions before he sent his long, I guess he has 2 or 3 pages of comments on the site plan. And the one condition that is being, we're being encouraged to pursue is that we've never had truck parking in the front of buildings on Innovation Way. It's in our covenants that truck parking always be in the back. And that in fact, all parking not be in the front of the building. But we have waived car parking in the front of buildings, but we've never waived truck parking. So what makes Amazon somewhat different is there's a large hill and you don't really see the parking from the road.
Sure.
But in any case, the suggestion is that we ask that rather than just a chain link fence around these new parking areas, that we ask for a non-permeable fence, a not see-through fence, and that we ask for landscape, shading around the whole, screening around the whole areas of the truck parking, because that's consistent with how we've required screening of any parking from Innovation Way. So even though you don't exactly see it from Innovation Way, you see it when you drive down into what is now a pretty attractive Amazon site, and that was a suggestion.
Okay. Any other questions of Attorney Salino? Ken?
Yeah, I think, a couple things. Did you say, I don't have a copy of the plan with me, but did you say the parking was going to the northeast or the southeast?
Right here.
Let me show you these.
The truck
things.
parking. This lot right
Okay. So it's like southern and middle.
Yes.
So this is,
So I guess there's a couple concern, not concern, couple issues I think we need to just be concerned about right now. So right now, I drove by there today. They're parking all their trucks in the front now, which is a violation of your covenants, which they shouldn't be doing. That's primarily taking place in the southwest area of the parking lot. They probably have 40, 50 truck beds there, and it doesn't look that great. Secondly, we've got a little bit of a precedent-setting issue here. What's going to happen when other people come forward and ask for the same sort of relief? I think this is a little bit different because you do have that screened area back from Innovation Way. I think the other issue here is whether or not MEPA has to be notified here, because now we're going to be creating, I think, more impervious surface as a result of adding additional blacktop to the area. and there's a finite schedule of impervious surface that we keep representing during various NEPA filings. So I'm not quite sure if this meets that, or if it's a minor plan modification, or if it's a plan modification. But there are new NEPA guidelines now that just went into effect that really further complicate things in terms of environmental justice impacts and all this other stuff.
Yeah, but this wouldn't be an environmental justice community. It's not close to one, I don't think. It is?
Fall River's it's a mile away, so you're gonna be hitting environmental EJ communities.
I thought that Innovation Way might be a mile from any EJ
Maybe that's
community.
right on North Main Street there, that could be.
Yeah.
That could be considered something, but
Yeah, okay.
in any event, I just think that you probably wanna get, somebody should look at the NEPA issues here, just to make sure that we're not violating any NEPA issue. Not to complicate things, but
Oh, you got to be aware of them.
you gotta be aware of things, and, NEPA is
Yeah.
gonna be constantly up there as a result of these other projects and everything else. Like I said, Dan may be able to clarify that a little bit further, but who's the engineer of record?
High Point.
They're a Massachusetts company?
Yes.
Yeah. So they should probably ask, seek an opinion from NEPA or get some guidance from NEPA as to whether or
Yeah.
not this triggers anything in terms of a plan modification.
Peter, if I remember my discussions with High Point a couple of months ago, I think they had said that the two areas, one area already has parking, right?
Yes.
And then the other one, I think they said that the approved site plan from Fall River had showed parking there, and that it never was built. So
Okay.
that would be helpful.
There was never site plan approval in those days.
Yeah.
Ah,
That's why.
okay.
It was only a conceptual
Yeah,
plan.
and that wouldn't mean that MIPA approved it, so, yeah.
We still do the vote?
It's up to you. I mean, you can do the vote contingent upon.
Contingent on those
You could
things.
say contingent upon the fencing screening, contingent upon final site plan approval, and contingent upon compliance with NEPA. I mean, you could do it any.
Yeah, I think so. I don't want to tie everybody up, if we're going to do this or we're not going to do this. So I would, any other questions of, you have any more, Ken?
No.
Okay.
How soon do they think they'll get to capacity with this parking? Like, they need to do all of it now?
Yes.
Are they gonna be moving the trucks from the northeast corner, the northwest corner?
I'll ask.
Yeah, I mean, they don't belong there, so we should ask.
But from what I understood this summer,
Southwest corner, I'm sorry.
one of the issues is that Amazon is filling trailers with product
Correct.
and then leaving it in the parking lot, and and there's just a huge amount of additional distribution demand has required that they have more truck parking, and that one of these areas, at least from a couple of months ago, was going to be done with an extremely thick concrete pad, because when you fill these trailers with product, they're very heavy and they need a specific kind of parking. And then they're all ready to go, and then a truck can just come up and hitch on and take it.
Right.
And so it's kind of a whole distribution strategy and the demand that are causing the need for this extra
Okay.
parking.
All right, well, that's helpful. What we'll do, I'll ask for a vote with the contingencies associated with it, and once we clarify those, we can authorize me, and that's the vote I'll ask for, authorize me to execute the amendment on the LDA with LIT Fall River to enable the development of additional truck parking for the Amazon facility, contingent on the MIPA data, the fencing, what was the third item?
So what was it? Fencing,
Fencing and
screening,
landscaping.
And landscaping,
And
and
landscape.
final site plan.
and final site plan.
From
You don't
both
mean a
communities,
berm.
though.
What's that?
From
No,
both
I
communities.
mean-
Yeah.
Yeah, we're
Oh,
doing
yeah.
it for the whole
Just
property.
vegetative
okay.
screening around a solid fence.
So those things being said, with those contingencies, can we have that motion?
Can I just ask one
Oh.
question? Who is LIT Fall River?
That's the owner. of the
That's the
property.
owner of the property.
That's who the deed went to when it was sold back in
Yeah.
15.
It's not Clarion?
Clarion.
Clarion may be
manages it.
they may be like the member of the LLC, or they manage it or something.
I
but
think
it-
they're managing, they give us a letter of authorization in the file.
Okay.
But the current deed of record is to LIT.
LIT.
Yeah, which is a Delaware LLC.
Hmm.
Yeah,
No.
okay.
Any other questions? No?
Do we want them to come back with the screening and the fencing for us to see? Or are we good with just letting them do something that's not see-through?
Well, we definitely want to know what's being done.
What's being put out there, right?
Yeah. We agree?
I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, I think some of it, I don't want to speak for Dan, but if we say these are our conditions.
Yeah.
Would he bring that into site plan review and make sure that that was part of the process, or was he letting us do it entirely independently? Or?
No, I think he would. I think that I can tell him that we want him to understand that that's part
The
of
conditions.
our decision.
Yeah, those are the conditions.
'Cause
Whether-
I mean, I'll add the language to the amendment saying, solid fencing, vegetative screening, but I don't know whether Dan would be the best person to monitor that and put
Right.
it into site plan review. If you wanted to come back here, I don't really, whatever you think you
If
want.
they do what we ask them to do, I don't have a problem, as long as we see
Mhm.
what it is. Do you see any problem with those asks?
I don't know, so I'm gonna recommend that we not take a vote and table it to the next meeting, if that's okay.
Oh, you'd rather table it then?
I wouldn't, but I just think hearing what you're saying, given that we need Dan's input, it makes
Yeah.
sense to me that this
I
be a
agree.
cohesive vote as opposed to this piecemeal option where I appreciate the courtesy to me, but I don't think, in the overall development, I don't think it's good.
Yep.
I think there's too many unknowns.
So you
Good
can,
idea.
you
I
can
agree.
wait a month then, is that what you're saying, or?
He's waited this long?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, if Dan's gonna have 2 pages of comments, they're gonna be
It's a
waiting.
month anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
But I just think to say, for instance, what the MIPA question, what
Yeah.
answers the MIPA question, I think Dan needs to say, we need X
Right.
from an expert in this. So,
Okay.
to me, there's too many unanswered questions with the 3 contingencies.
So if you come back, if you get feedback from Dan, your plans get revised, we can just attach those to the future amendment.
Yeah.
Right, like for instance, the vegetative screening, off the top of my head, 6-foot
I know.
arborvitae, more or less.
Yeah.
I know. Yep.
What kind of fence?
Yep.
Yep.
Show it all on a plan.
Yep, I got you.
Get the plan appended to the LDA, and then I think it's cleaner for
And then-
everybody's.
And then
Good.
this plan will match site plan review, and you can
Right.
just do it once.
Right.
Okay.
Because otherwise I see another ask for another amendment.
Yep. I agree with you.
Yeah.
We won't be done. All right, with that feedback, is there a motion to table that item?
I move we table.
Second.
Second? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Does anyone know what the date would be?
Yeah, wrote it down just for that. I think it's, well, I'll tell you for sure, I think it's the 19th.
That was the 26th.
26th.
Oh,
26th.
you're right,
Okay.
you're right. It's the
5 o'clock, same
26th.
time.
Yeah, 26th.
Okay. Okay, thank you all.
Oh, you're welcome, thank you. All right. Next meeting. Next item on the agenda, City Pier, 600 Duval Street. Ann, you want to start? I mean,
Yeah, I will
Sarah.
start. So the good news is that they hydro-seeded on Friday. And I'm still waiting for confirmation of exactly when all of the other pieces are being done. But they have made it very clear that they are trying to get back on site as fast as they can, and that they are planning to address all of the items, including the concrete, they said over the next few weeks, but they haven't been able to fully remobilize yet. So, I think that will be on them to make sure that they are carrying all of that out. And I'm in constant contact with Nick to try to make sure that all those pieces move forward well. So then, Johnny, I want you to weigh in on this. He and I met with the corrosion specialist from SGH, the firm that Johnny connected us with, and we're waiting for a report. And, we'll,
Yeah, so he,
And Sarah, I didn't mean to
we
interrupt
were
Johnny.
going to talk about this.
I just want to make
later
sure
on.
some of it may or may not be for executive session.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure we talk about the right topics.
No,
either
you're right.
Here or there, so I don't.
Yeah, it's just
We're
that-
supposed to talk about that in executive session, so.
yeah,
we
I
should-
mean, I was just going to say, that we don't have the report yet, so.
Right, we don't.
We can say that there or now. yeah.
We don't know, right, what the report is going to say.
Okay, there you go.
Yep.
What else has to do with,
So then the other things are when we want to have the dedication. So options might be October 29th, November 5th. I doubt we want to do it on Veterans Day weekend. And then if we pushed it even further into November, it would be the weekend before Thanksgiving, which probably isn't great. So.
Those weren't Saturdays, were they?
Yep.
Yeah, these
They
are
were
29th is a
Saturdays.
Saturday.
Okay.
Yep.
So, depending on how long it takes for this hydro seeding to really take hold, the good news about the hydro seeding is that they did do, as you're supposed to, a very thin layer of hydro seed. So if you're putting it over existing grass, and the grass has been, as Joe has been telling us, really growing a whole lot better over the last couple of weeks. So, and they did fill in some of the area with where there was pooling, and they've hydroseeded over all of it. And so we would expect that the grass should be looking much better by the end of October. But it may be smart to go with November 5th if people think that would be a date that would work. And we definitely need to check with the mayor and, a few other people to see if they can make those dates. So it may make sense for us to pick a couple of dates.
pick a, yeah. Ed, do you mind? Any of those dates work?
I cannot do the 29th or the 5th.
Oh, no.
No, well, that's
But
what we're
you
asking.
guys can do those
I
dates.
can't do the 29th either, so.
I'm good.
Well, what about the following week?
The 5th?
No, after that, the 12th.
Veterans
That's
weekend?
Veterans Day weekend.
Oh,
Probably
yeah.
not a good either.
Do
Well,
we-
let's do the 19th then, what's the difference?
I'm away.
Yeah.
That's
we
the
get
difference.
into other people.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard, I think.
Yeah.
It is.
Well, you
Yeah.
gotta pick one though, or two.
But, yeah, we need to pick two.
It has to be a Saturday, right?
Yep.
Why does it have to be a Saturday?
I don't know.
Well,
Yeah.
that's what the family of the person we're dedicating the pier to suggested, but it doesn't have to be.
I wonder if it could be a Friday afternoon then.
Yeah, we gotta just be wary of the time of the day,
Yeah.
because daylight savings comes in to play at the end of October,
That's the
right?
weekend of the 5th.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we could conceivably, are you here Friday the 4th?
No, I'm not here that week in between those dates.
Okay.
I'm not either, but you still have to, I mean, it's not like we're
Well, you
gonna
have to be
take,
there.
we're not gonna take a board vote or anything, so, it's whoever's there.
Well,
I'll be going till November 17th.
Do
So
the
it's
19th.
okay.
Don't worry about me. Do
Well,
the
don't worry.
19th.
We should come up with some dates.
oh, this is terrible.
Late October.
Huh?
Late October.
Well, the only one would be the 29th. because we don't know. We want to make sure it's ready.
Oh, so it's gonna be, listen, it's gonna, a week's not gonna make a difference, right?
Well-
If it's like November 5th or October or whatever.
29.
But you can't make the 29th either.
I can't.
Did we float the 22nd, or was that not an idea?
Well, that gives us 2 weeks to, well, the grass is still an issue, and that gives us just a little over 2 weeks to plan, which would be really tough.
Oh, okay.
No, it gives you 3 weeks, really.
Huh?
Gives you 3. Because today's the 27th.
Yeah, you're
All right, so you're suggesting the 29th or the 5th back again?
Well, or do we think we want to try to shoot for the 22nd?
I don't know, I just, what's another week? I mean, my fear is that it won't be ready, that's all. But maybe it will.
It's gonna be
When
as
do
late
you-
as it's gonna be.
Is the plan to have it in that circle and just take the fence down, or what's the plan? I mean, you're not gonna go walk out on the grass anyway.
Yeah, we're not gonna be playing badminton or anything on the grass, so I don't think
As
it's
soon
gonna
as
be
you
much
have
of
the
a-
opening, you're opening the pier.
Yes,
Right.
that's it.
So it'll be open to the
Oh,
public.
okay, so it's not just the naming, it's the.
No, it's open to the
Yeah,
public.
This
Okay,
is,
I
yeah.
got you.
to take the fence down.
People are dying to get on there. It's-
Yeah.
Oh, I know, but we don't want them killing the grass.
Grass, yeah.
and,
I don't know, I think the later the better.
When do you leave, Joe? Do we do it that week leading up? to it?
I'm leaving the 17th of October
Oh,
to the
okay.
17th of November,
Okay.
so I'm not going to be here.
Oh, so you'll miss it.
I'm definitely
Yeah.
not going to be here.
Oh, dear.
But we still have to get it done.
You could open it and have a dedication in the spring.
No, you want to do it all at one time. I'm not a fan of dedicating something after it's open.
Well, you could open it and dedicate it to the senator in the spring.
Yeah.
What about Saturday the 19th, the weekend before Thanksgiving? You'd be-
Well, that was my first choice,
Yeah,
but then we lose
go ahead.
Joan.
No,
Oh, right.
no, do it.
Then we lose Joan.
Do it.
What about the 18th, Friday the 18th? What time? Are you still around then?
I'm away. I'm away from the 10th to the 19th.
Gotcha.
See, we're all out of here.
Yeah.
Johnny just came back, so we're good.
19th is fine with me if it works for everybody else.
Why don't you use that as a date? Everything should be ready by then,
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
and you can't go much after that.
And you'll be able to take the fence down with
Right.
certainty. But
Yeah, I think you gotta go later. Whew, November. All
So
right.
we need a second date in case that doesn't work for key people.
Okay, press-wise, it's horrible to have it on a Saturday.
Yeah.
what day is better than
when they're
during the
work-
week?
During the week when they're working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we gotta be sensitive to Senator
I
Norton too.
understand, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying if, if you want to get a public relations hit on this thing, you're better off to have it on a Friday as opposed to a Saturday.
What, so why don't we talk to them and see if Friday,
Yeah.
Friday afternoon of, before one of these dates
Yeah.
works?
Uh-huh. Yeah, I think that's fine. It was just thrown out there as an
Yeah,
idea.
that's a good point.
Yeah.
Even Friday
Right.
at lunchtime or something.
Huh?
Even Friday at lunchtime.
Have some sandwiches.
It'd
Yeah.
be warm in the middle of the day.
Yeah, actually.
If you did a noon event, yeah, you're
All
right.
right, so let's shoot toward the 18th then. Oh, you won't?
No, I'll be here.
Oh, yeah.
It's
We
Joan
all
that
will.
won't be.
That's
Yeah,
except for Joan.
yeah.
She won't be here Saturday or Friday.
No.
Right.
All right, well, let us know then.
Well, what about, so Friday the 11th is the previous week, and that in Friday is Veterans
Yeah,
Day.
you
Yeah,
can't.
yeah,
You
we
can't.
can't do
Yeah.
it then.
Well, then there's Friday, November 4th.
You got the 4th and the 18th.
Yep.
Okay. Okay.
Find out which one of those works for the parties that need to be there.
Oh, and it's actually Friday the 4th. Are we thinking Saturday the 5th as well, or are we trying to really move it to Fridays?
Well, give them
Yeah.
well, you can't give them the choice, they want Saturday, but check with the mayor's office,
Okay.
find out which one is better.
Yep.
But I think the Friday, based on what Ken said, Friday is preferred,
Yep.
So say the 4th and the 18th.
But we've got Johnny and Joan for those days, right? Because I'm not available and you're not available, right?
Right,
And I'm only here the 4th.
but I'm okay on the 18th.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's okay on the 4th.
I just want to make sure the earlier date we have coverage.
we do.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, the 4th I would be here.
Okay, so 4, 5, 18, 19,
Okay.
all right?
Oh, I'm so sorry. We're going to miss some of you.
Well, as long as it gets open.
We'll have to have some, we're certainly going to have events in the spring, so.
Yeah. Okay, anything else on opening? And you mentioned also on the agenda, operations.
Yes, so the good operational news is that the city will buy the trash cans that are consistent with the city trash cans,
Okay,
and then we don't have to put them out to bid. We have the city purchase them, the city will put them in. I'm going out next week to look at the locations of them, and then we will pay the city back.
okay,
Okay.
good.
And these are the regular type of trash cans?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they'll collect,
Yes, and
Everything,
they're
okay.
collecting the trash.
okay,
And
good. Yeah, that's good. Anything else relative to operations?
no, I think that's it.
Okay, good, thank you. Next item is Phase 4 of City Pier.
So we have all of the applications in. We're waiting for Mass DEP to get back to us about the Chapter 91 license. And we expect them to approve that sometime soon. The design of the docks has been pretty much completed, and we are putting in a Seaport Council grant proposal on Monday. And so it was really important to get a budget and get the design of the docks so that we could write all of that into the Seaport proposal. And the docks are coming in somewhere between 700,000 and 800,000. And we got a confirmation letter Joe and I received today with information about the state earmark. And so we're still proceeding ahead to put the project out to bid around October 5th or so, and then try to get the piers put in the end, by the end of December, before any time of year limitations may be imposed by the spawning of fish in the Taunton River. So the goal is to get it out to bid, pick a contractor in early November, and get them out there putting the piers in before the end of December using the earmark. And then hopefully we will be successful in a Seaport Council grant and be able to finish the docks and the whole project next spring.
So you're talking about the pilings by 12/31 and then
Yes.
the docks later?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because the piles are what really is an issue with the time of year restriction.
So we'll be good to go next spring for sure.
Well, I should tell you that I talked with Ellen Sabula at the Seaport Council, and the state funding hasn't been allocated for this funding round. So they hope that it will be. I'm assuming that's the economic development bill. And so she said, that's the caution, is that you're applying, but it's possible the state money won't be there. And then your application would go into the spring round.
Okay. You've already covered the design, the bidding, and construction of the docks.
So I want One detail is that last time when we applied, and it's been encouraged this time, that the city be a co-applicant with us, because it's typically designed for the municipality to be an applicant or a co-applicant. And so what we want to do is have our chair co-sign with Mayor Coogan to make this application. And so I would like the board to authorize the chair to co-sign a submittal letter and agree to the submittal of this proposal.
Right, I'd entertain a motion to authorize me to sign that.
Okay, so I move that we authorize the chair to sign the submittal letter with the mayor as a co-applicant.
Right, and that's ready to go, right? October 1?
It's coming together.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we shouldn't have a problem with that
No,
deadline?
we shouldn't.
Okay, good.
And Jane will be back, Jane, our grant writer, will be back Thursday from her vacation, and she's been saying that she's ready to help me finish it.
Good.
And it should be fine. And the other thing I should tell you is that there's a 20% match, and what we're using for the 20% match is the funding that we've been committing to Beta to design the pier, the whole project, to get the Chapter 91 license.
Correct.
And we can also include money that we have put into City Pier over the last couple of years.
Okay, good.
So we have plenty of match, and we'll be applying for both the cost of the construction and everything that needs to be purchased, as well as engineering fees for the construction period. So we'll be able to include the costs of Beta during the construction and the work that goes on in the
Okay.
spring.
It should be minimal.
Huh?
It should be minimal,
Yes, it should be.
because you can drive 30 piles in a week.
Yeah.
Well, we'll be having to pay for the pile piece.
But I mean, in terms of oversight, if
Yeah.
you're having somebody oversee that, right? Is that what you're talking about?
No, I'm saying we won't have the grant until the spring, so we'll be paying for the oversight of the piles, which is in the contract we have right now with
Right.
Beta. But next spring, when all the docks go in and, there's more complexity in the spring, and we'll be able to take the contract that we have with Beta for the spring portion of construction and have that be part of the Seaport grant.
Yeah, I think the complexity is more in the pilings than it is in, like, you're just attaching the docks to the pilings.
Yeah, but you've got to link to the sidewalk and, put that fence in, and there's some complexity that they're still working on designing that they'll be supervising. But we can, we'll work on what that costs.
You know, the one other thing we talked about is maybe seeking an architectural variance for
Right.
the gangway. So right now, we have an 80-foot gangway, which is about $80,000.
Yeah.
Most marinas throughout the region have sought architectural variances from the Architectural Board of Boston to shorten the gangway for those types of uses.
You're talking about architectural access board?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
for accessibility.
For
Right.
accessibility, yeah. Because they said, in speaking to marine owners, they said, first of all, nobody's ever seen an 80-foot gangway. They couldn't even put it on a truck. And then the movement of 80 feet, with the water moving and everything else is gets a little complicated, so.
Okay. Again, I'll entertain that motion if we're done discussing that. Is there a second to John's motion?
Second.
Okay. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay.
So that package is all, pretty much all set?
Yeah, that's ready to go.
Going out to bid, okay.
Oh, no, the package, yeah.
Yeah, you know,
The bid- the bid.
We just need
went
Jane-
over it with Beta. They're giving us some slightly revised numbers, and they've been helping answer a bunch of questions, and, you know, the pieces have to be put together over the next few days, but all the pieces are pretty much coming together.
So it would go out to bid the 5th,
Oh,
you were
the
saying?
5th. Oh, you're going out to bid. I thought you were
Yeah.
talking about the proposal. We're not sure if it's necessarily the 5th. I got the sense it might be slightly beyond that, but it's, you know,
Early
close.
October.
Huh?
Early October.
Early October. We had asked them to project to the 5th, but I think it will be a bit later than that.
All right. It's next week already.
Okay, any other questions on that item? The next item is Pleasant Street roadmap and urban renewal plan.
So, we had always known that Emily has a multi-week trip planned to Europe for October. So, we're planning around that, and we're expecting to take the urban renewal plan to the city council now in January or February, and we're shooting for that. And that one of the next steps is for me to organize a meeting among Ken, Dan Aguiar, the city engineer, Mike Dion from Community Development, and I, to really go through the roadmap that's been developed and make sure that everyone from the city side and our side is in agreement that this is work that we agree should be done, and just really confirm that, because on some recent calls, there really has been not full agreement, and Dan was just pulled into the process. So we want to make sure that that we really have good agreement, and then we can finalize the roadmap, and then the roadmap gets merged into the urban renewal plan. They've done an analysis of the properties that would be listed in the urban renewal plan as properties we might want to acquire. And so there, lots of pieces of that are moving forward. The new kink in everything is we knew that the new MIPA environmental justice community regulations could be an issue for us. And MIPA, now urban renewal plans in these communities require MIPA approval, and MIPA has been unclear what exactly their process was, because we're the first community to be doing an urban renewal plan under the new MIPA regulations. So our team has been working with MIPA, having conversations with them about what exactly the process is. One of the good pieces of it is that when we go through the process and we get a MIPA certificate, it will make the process for developers easier. It will, to some extent, clear some of the path for developers who would also have to go through MIPA. Now, it's going to take more work, and an amendment is being drafted by Ty and Bond, who are the consulting firm that's part of Emily's contract. They're developing a whole plan of what it will take to get this approval, and it looks like that might be around $25,000, which I thought I would need to bring to you for your approval. But in the meantime, I learned that the HUB grant will cover it.
Oh.
They recognize that it's really important, and I think they recognize that we're the guinea pig and that we'll help kind of figure out this MIPA process, and so they have funding for these kinds of things. So they're going to fund it. The challenge is that it will add time to our process, and it will just be a whole new project that we have to include in our completion of this project. Do you want to add anything?
I don't know, it's it's very complicated. It's probably gonna add a year, close to a year for approvals, I think.
I think it can be done in a couple of months. We have to get the NEPA approval. Don't we have to get NEPA approval before we go in front of the city council, or not?
Not sure.
Yeah, so we haven't seen the tie-in
I
bond.
can tell you that just between public hearings, the filing of the expanded ENF, which is a 30-day comment period, right? Plus your filing.
Ken, would you mind stepping up here, because we've had some complaints from the audience that can't hear you all the time. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm saying that just the filing of the expanded ENF, that's at least a 60-day period. And then the filing of the EIR, even if it's done simultaneously, I think that's going to add more time to the whole situation. So I don't see that happening in a couple of months. I think it's probably closer to 9 to 12 months on that.
So we're a year behind in our urban renewal plan?
I think so, with this added permitting component. And I'm not sure, it doesn't really help developers, because I don't think any of the development there is going to upset any MEPA thresholds, right? So they'd be developing those parcels as a matter of right, as opposed, it's not like you're developing vacant land and you're doing a lot of, things that trigger the MEPA process itself. I don't think this process, this EIR process, fits within the urban renewal plan,
Right,
but it's something we have to deal with.
That's
right.
I don't think they've thought it out when they did these things.
No, it doesn't sound as though.
Right. So I just think it's going to make it much more complicated
Yep.
and time-consuming. You're going to have a series of public meetings. So I don't think this is going to happen quickly, unfortunately.
So once we get the outline from Ty and Bond about all the pieces of this process, I'll certainly send it out to the board members who are on our planning team. Do other people want to see it?
No, I do.
Everybody should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good read. It'll put you to sleep in 10
Yeah,
minutes.
I'm motivated.
Okay, so I'll make sure we send that out to everybody
Please.
when we get it.
Anything else on phase 4?
On Pleasant Street.
Oh, I'm sorry, the
Yeah, that's
urban
yours.
renewal plan.
I think that's pretty much it. Joan, you've been coming to our meetings. Is there anything?
Yeah, no, nothing
No?
I have to add.
Okay.
Okay, thanks. Next, I'll entertain going into executive session as I make a finding that an open session would have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the public body and on the litigating of the public body. So in order to go into executive session, I would entertain a roll call vote. The executive session is to approve the executive session minutes from August 24th and September 19th, and to discuss strategy with respect to litigation in the Bristol County Superior Court issue that we have, docket number 2273, CVO 0535, and with respect to potential litigation regarding the City Pier project and for real estate transactions on the agenda, including Innovation Way and 72 Bank Street. So if I could entertain a motion to go into executive session and not come back into open session.
Joe, I realized that when we revised the agenda, I added 45 Anawan Street, but I didn't add that to your list.
Okay.
So it also includes.
To also include 45 Anawan Street.
Are we coming back into open session?
No, and as I was saying, we wouldn't come back into open session.
So I move we move to executive session.
All right, is there a second to that?
Second.
Second by Ann. Roll call.
John Erickson, yes.
Joan Maderas, yes.
Joe Marshall, yes.
Ann Keen, yes.
Okay, so moved.